Start right now. So welcome back, everybody, to another beautiful day of Trucks Farm / Garden at Table. We're going to start with our question of the day, which is, what is your favorite pollinator? So does everybody know what a pollinator is? Hopefully.
Nope.
So pollinators are like bees and butterflies and birds and things like that who help spread pollen. And we're going to talk about what it means in a second. But just for our intro question, if you have a favorite bee or butterfly or a bird, something like that, then you can say your favorite.
Cardinal.
So, you want to call on somebody?
Cardinal?
Yeah.
Who said cardinal?
Corbin.
Cardinal?
Okay.
Okay, and say your name too.
Okay, Corbin.
Corbin likes cardinals. Okay. Who's next? You want to call on somebody? Let's go with Hunter next.
I like the monarch butterflies.
Monarch butterflies?
Mm.
Yeah, those are really pretty.
Okay, how about Marissa?
I like the honeybees.
Honeybees? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to see some of those in a second. And then I think there's one more on here, right?
Abraham?
Oh, yeah, that's Eker, right?
Eker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite pollinator?
The bees.
The bees?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So we are going to talk all about pollination today and about how they're helpful in our garden. I'm going to talk a little bit about bees and how they live in their hive, and we're also going to talk about some native plants and plants that pollinators really like. And then at the end, we're going to make a seed bomb. So did everybody get a packet of materials to make a seed bomb? Hopefully. If not, I can
Yeah, that
always
was
tell
my
you.
email to you this morning that I had a little glitch. But I do have, some of them have packets, some of them don't. But I'll get them to them.
Okay. Okay. Well, then if you want to just watch this video later, once you have the material, you can make your own seed bombs and plant wildflowers for our pollinators. So to get started, first question is, what is pollination? Does anybody have a definition of what that means? Is anybody raising their hand? No?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so pollination is a process of spreading pollen from flower to flower, which fertilizes the flower, and it makes the flower able to reproduce. Flower able to make more seeds, and if we have a fruiting plant, like a tomato, it also makes vegetables and fruits for us. So pollinators are really important in the garden, because if we didn't have pollinators, we wouldn't have, I think, about 50% of the food that's in grocery stores, because bees and butterflies and things like that are so important for so many different foods that we have. So I brought this flower just to show everybody kind of how pollination works. So I'm going to get up close. So can everybody see these things right here that have all the powder all over them? Okay, so these are called the anthers, and they are covered in pollen grains. So in order to pollinate this flower so that it can make seeds, the pollen grains need to move from here to here, and this part up here is sticky, and then that is what will travel down this tube and fertilize the flower so that the flower can keep reproducing. Does that make sense to everybody? Hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So some flowers come with both parts. They come with the pollen and with the stigma, which is what this part is called. But some flowers only have one or the other, and that is where our pollinators come in, because in order for those flowers to get fertilized, we need pollinators to transfer the pollen from one flower to another flower, from one flower to another flower. And so here we have our beehive. So you can see in this hole right here, all of these bees are flying in and out of that hole, And if we were to get really, really close to them, you would see that there's pollen all over their legs. So bees have really hairy legs, and when they step on flowers, the pollen gets stuck to the hair in their legs. So honestly, bees kind of pollinate by accident, but they're still very helpful creatures. So we're going to talk a little bit about bee society. So we see our bees in our hive. There are 3 different kinds of bees that live in a hive. Does anybody know one of those kinds?
A worker bee.
Yeah, a worker bee is one. Does anybody know another one? There's 2 left.
A queen bee.
Yep, the queen bee, and then who's left?
Oh,
It starts with a D, and it's a fun toy to play with that flies around and has a camera on it. Does anybody know what those are called?
a drone. A drone.
Oh, yep, that's exactly it. That's the 3rd kind of bee. So first, let's talk about the worker bees, because they do every single thing that keeps the hive running all year round. So first question, do we think that worker bees are all boys, all girls, or a mix of both? What does everybody think?
All girl, I think.
All girls?
Isn't it
Everybody else
girl?
in agreement?
No, boys and girls,
Yep.
I think. Maybe? I
You
don't
think
know.
all boys and girls?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the actual answer, if you said all girls, you would be right. So all of the worker bees in the hive are girls, and they have different jobs from birth until the end of their life. So when they're first born, their job is to care for the other pupas, which is the little baby bees. Then as they get older, they start to help make the honey in the hive. And then kind of the last part of their life is actually traveling out to get the pollen and bringing it back to the hive. So everything that goes on in the hive is done by those worker bees. There's also a bunch of guard bees, which you can see right here. There's bees that just hang out outside of the hive and prevent other things from getting in. What kind of other things do you think they're preventing from getting in the hive?
Animals.
Why would-
Birds.
Birds, yep. What else?
Maybe different sort of bees that they don't like.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because
Like
there's a bunch
hornets?
of bees out there. What'd you say?
Like
Hornets.
hornets
Yep.
or wasps.
Yep. So anything that might try to invade their hive and steal their honey, they try to keep out of there because they are a really close-knit family, basically. And so they want to keep out anybody that's trying to invade and steal their food, because that honey is what's going to keep them alive all winter long. So it's really important for bees to survive. Next, let's talk about the drones. So drones, do we think those are all girls, all boys, or a mix of both?
Mix
All
of
boys.
both.
Boys?
Someone says mix of both, someone says boys. What else do we think? So if you said all boys, you would be correct. So drones are all male bees. If we could get really up close and personal to the hive, you would see they have huge eyes on them. They take up almost their whole head. And why do we think that drones need those huge eyes on their heads? Does anyone have a guess?
To watch out for predators.
To watch out for predators? That's a good guess.
So
That's
they
one
can
reason.
watch out for their babies in there.
Watch out for the babies. Well, the drones don't actually take care of the babies because that's the workers, remember?
Oh
So that's
yeah,
a good guess
that's
too.
good.
So what is a drone's job? That's another question. They only have one real purpose. Does anyone have a guess, or you want me to just tell you?
To fly around and stuff like that.
It is to fly around, but their main purpose is only to mate with the queen. That is
I
all
was
they
gonna say,
do.
yeah, make
So
more
when it
bees.
Yeah, that's it. That's their only purpose. So once they're done mating with the queen, they basically just take up resources in the hive. And then in the winter time, the worker bees kick them out because they're not really contributing to the work of the hive, but they are important during that one season in order to keep the colony alive. So they do have one important job. And last but not least, let's talk about the queen. So what is the queen's main job? It's not as glamorous as you might think it would be. Anyone have a guess?
Make
What'd you say?
the baby.
Make babies, that is it. That's what the queen does, you're right. All she does all day long is lay egg after egg in each cell. So I wish I had an example, but has anyone seen what a honeycomb looks like before? With all those little tiny cells? Okay. Well, I wonder if we have one in our shed.
Come
That's
on my
okay.
house. Get on my house. You get them off
This
my
for an
house.
example. Oh yeah, okay, so some people have seen them on their house. So basically it's just a big thing like this that's inside their hive, and they like to do it in hexagons, which is 6 sides, but we'll just use this for an example because it's a good example. So all the queen does all day is she lays an egg, and goes to the next one, lays an egg, goes to the next one, lays an egg, and lays an egg, lays an egg, and she can lay hundreds of eggs in a day, and so hundreds of new bees will be born all the time. So the queen is also very important in the hive. She's also very pampered. There's a special way that bees make queens. So this is a really cool fact that I always love telling about bees, is the way that a pupa, so the baby bee, becomes a queen is it's fed something really special, and that's the only difference. So bees, when the queen is laying eggs, she's not really differentiating which one's going to be a queen, which one's going to be a worker, which is going to be a drone. But what happens is the pupa are fed different things. So the queen is fed only royal jelly, which is made of, actually I can't remember what it's made of, but I know it's made of pollen and other really high nutrient stuff that is not fed to worker bees. And by being fed that from baby to adult, she grows into a queen. So I think that's a very cool fact. So any questions about bees before we move on? Or about pollination?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
okay, what's your question?
Is it right that when they sting you, they die?
Yep. So bees don't want to sting you, so you usually don't have to be scared of it. They really will only sting you if they feel like they're about to die. So if you're squishing them, they'll sting you, or if you get way too close, they'll sting you. But they know that they're gonna die, so they don't want to. But yeah. Any other questions? Oh, actually, I do have one more fun fact about bees. Now that you brought up stingers, so the queen has a stinger, but when she doesn't die because she's and there's only one time that a queen uses her stinger in her life. Does anyone have a guess when that might be? It's really cool. No guesses?
What'd you say? What'd you say?
I said there's only one time in a queen's life that she uses her stinger. When do you think that time would be?
If the drone hurts her.
If the drone hurts her? That's a good guess. But it's something like way cooler
After
than
she laid
that.
the egg? Is it after they lay the egg?
What'd you say? You kind of cut out.
After they lay the egg?
After they lay the eggs? That's a good guess too. But let me tell you what the story is. It's very cool. So sometimes when a queen gets really old and the other bees notice that her egg production is going down, they will secretly start feeding another pupa to become the next queen to replace her. And the queen has no idea because she's just laying eggs all day, and the workers are the ones feeding the new queen to make her the next queen. And then when that queen grows up, the two queens have a battle with their stingers. And whoever wins the battle is the next queen. And that is why queens have stingers, which I think is really cool. So it's like a whole drama TV show in this hive over here. I think it's really cool. But anyway, bees are really cool. If you ever want to come check out our bees, we have them right here doing their work all the time. But if there's no other questions, let's move on to our native plants. So I'm going to turn over to Mackenzie, who's going to lead this section.
Yes.
Here we go. So
we can start walking over to the prairie plants that we have.
yeah. Ooh, look at all these groundhog holes we have
Yes,
everywhere.
I know. I actually saw it under the shed one day and it ran away from me.
Oh.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, we have a tragic groundhog problem here at the garden. They keep eating the leaves of all of our plants. So sad.
Okay, before we get to the native plant species, does anyone understand what it means to be native?
I'm not seeing anybody raise their hands.
No? Anyone want to try and guess? So a native plant or a native anything is basically something that originates in the environment that it's in right now. So for example, this plant right here, this is called a purple prairie coneflower. And this is a native species because it originates in the area that we live in. It wasn't brought in by Europeans or anyone from outside this country. It just naturally grew in this environment. So that's what it means to be a native species. And as you can see, there's a native species right here, and there's a little tiny bee on it right now. And it's collecting all the pollen, spreading it to other flowers.
Oh yeah, you can even see, ooh, it flew away. You can see the pollen on its legs too, if you look really close. Can everybody see that? How it has like yellow pollen stuck to its legs? Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So this is a perfect example of a native species. And native species are really, really good for the environment and good for pollinators. And there's multiple reasons behind this. One of the main reasons is because native species are fit for the environment, so they grow really easily within the location that they're at. So they don't take a lot of maintenance. You don't have to water them as often. They reseed themselves really easily, and they're really good for various pollinators because they have plenty of pollen to spread to other flowers. And so if you look over here, here's another example of a native species, and this one is called prairie phlox.
And there's the butterfly right now.
So those are two examples of different native flowers that we have in Nebraska. And if you come further down, you can see a couple more that City Sprouts has growing in their lawn. So right here, this is an example of black-eyed Susan, and this is also a native species to Nebraska. And one fact, what were you saying? There's, so bees are attracted towards
Oh yeah.
colors.
Yeah, bees can only see yellow, blue, and ultraviolet.
So
Yes, they can't see red.
naturally, bees like very colorful plants. So obviously black-eyed Susan, since it's bright yellow, it attracts bees more often. So that's a good example of that. And then further down here, you'll see that there are a couple more native species. This one right here is called pink yarrow. And it's a very, like, it has lots of pollen and it's really good for the bees. Beautiful. So there's various plants that you can see within this landscape that are native, and they provide lots of pollen to the bees, and they're able to easily transport them. And one big issue that has become more apparent as cities grow and urban landscapes start to develop is that there aren't as many plants for bees to pollinate. So you'll see there's actually within the United States, within the past 50 years, 50% of all the bees that we have gone away and died because we don't have enough plants or anything for them to pollinate. So that's becoming like a widespread problem. But one of the biggest things that we can do to help fix that and mitigate that problem is just by planting beautiful flowers and native plants within our yards. So that's one good example. But do you
Yeah.
have any more you want to say about native plants?
I think that pretty much covered it.
Okay.
So
Does
yeah,
anyone
here's
have
some-
any questions?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Oops. Doesn't look like anyone has questions, but hopefully you can see all of our beautiful native plants mostly that are growing right here. And also just some really good pollinator plants, like these ones. These ones are not native, but bees love them because they're so bright and there's giant petals for them to sit on while they get the pollen. So those are just some good examples. I think we only have 5 minutes left, so let's get to our seed bomb making. Do you wanna?
Yes.
Okay. We've got all of our stuff set up over here.
I think I got the stuff.
You got the stuff? Okay, awesome.
I think I do.
Well, what you should have gotten is a bag of compost.
Yeah,
Right
I
here.
have that.
Okay, awesome. And then this is paper mache powder. Does anyone know what this is made of? No one? Okay. So this is basically like pulverized paper. It's just totally ground up paper to make it into a powder. And the reason that this is really good for making seed bombs is it kind of helps hold everything together. So if you've ever made paper mache before, like using newspaper and glue and you make a piñata and stuff like that, this stuff is just like that stuff and it helps hold the whole seed bomb together. Yeah, so that's why we have that. We have compost because it's full of nutrients and it helps the seeds grow when we plant it somewhere. And then in here we have all sorts of different wildflower seeds. There's some native, some non-native, but they're all good for pollinators. So that's why we're gonna put them in here. So our proportion is 5 parts compost to 3 parts paper mache powder to 1 part seeds. So I forgot to bring a measuring cup with me, so I'm just gonna use my eyes. But if you're watching this and making this after the video, just remember, 5 parts compost powder, 1 part seeds. And that just means,
I couldn't hear you because you like.
oh, you couldn't hear what I said? Okay, 5 parts compost, 3 parts paper mache powder, and 1 part seeds. And what that means is whatever measuring tool you're using, just multiply it by those numbers. So for example, if you were doing cups, you would do 5 cups compost, 3 cups paper mache powder, and 1 cup of seeds. But we don't have that much, so maybe we'll do half a cup. So a half cup times 5, 2.5, so it would be 2.5 cups of compost. A half cup times 3 is 1.5, so 1.5 cups of paper mache powder, and then a half cup of seeds. So that is how you want to do your proportions. So we are going to start with our compost and use our mixing bowl. So get one of these nice bowls out. We'll put that in there. And you want to make sure that it's moist enough that it's going to stick together. So I have a good feeling that this will be moist enough, hopefully. If not, we can always add more water later. So put this in your bowl. Is anyone doing this with me today, or are we just gonna watch the video later? It's okay either way, because I know we only have a few minutes left.
I have to watch the video because I don't have it.
Okay, that's okay. So we have our compost in here, and if this is 5 parts, I'm gonna say this is probably just about 3 parts paper mache powder. So we're just gonna put all of that in there. Thank you. And then mix.
I can't see you.
Can you see what I'm doing?
No.
Coming through the video looks like it's coming through.
Oh. Can everybody else see me? Or is it?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't be seeing my face right now. You should just be seeing what my hands are doing, because that's the most important part. So once you have paper mache powder and compost, you're going to mix those two together really well in your bowl. And I would look at this and say, I think I need some water, because if I try to put this into a ball, it's pretty dry. You know what it kind of looks like? An Oreo ball. You ever made those before? That's kind of what it looks like. So let's see. I think we have a hose right here. So we would add water to it.
I think it's you have to like.
Oh.
Yep. Oh,
Okay,
I don't want to
thank you.
spray it for you, but I'll let you do it.
Thank you. So we have this super fancy mister attached to it right now. So this is all water that's coming out. So there we go. We'll get that nice and wet like that. Okay, that looks a lot better. So now when we mix this together, it will definitely hold into a ball. So once we've got this delicious Oreo mixture right here, it should look something like this. So super, not super soaked, but wet enough that when you roll it into a ball, it stays in shape. So that is what we want it to look like. And then we can add our seeds. Put those in there, just put them all in there. And then mix that part in. It's like we're making a mud pie. A delicious nature cake. Okay, so once we're at this point, you can probably make, I would guess, 8 to 10 seed bombs out of what you have in your material bag. And you just want to take a small amount, like maybe a tablespoon size, maybe a little bigger. Kind of like when you make cookies, if you've ever made cookies before, and just roll it into a ball. And then we're gonna set it in a sunny spot for it to dry. So this table is outside. It's gonna hang out in the sun and dry up. And that way the seeds don't sprout before we want them to. And once you're done making all of your seed bombs and letting them dry, when do we think the best time to plant them is gonna be? Because to give you a hint, this is not really a super ideal time of year for it. So when would we want to plant these?
Spring?
Yep, so we're gonna wait until next year to plant them. So if you have a place to put these until next year, they should keep until March. And then once March comes around, you can just take the whole thing and throw it outside. And then as it gets rain and snow on top of it, the seeds will start to sprout. And wherever you've thrown your seed bomb, it'll grow into a bunch of wildflowers for the pollinators. So I think we're just about out of time. So does anyone have any questions or want to say one thing that they learned today as a reflection? So let's have everybody say one thing that you learned today about bees, about pollinators, about native plants, anything like that. You want to call on somebody?
Hunter, you go ahead.
That there are 3 types of bees.
Yeah, good job. There's 3 types of bees. As a bonus question, do you remember what they are? It's okay if you don't.
Worker bees, drones, and queen.
Perfect, good job. All right, what's another thing that somebody learned?
Drone?
What'd you say?
I learned about the drone.
About
Bees?
the drones, like what they do?
Yeah.
What do they do?
They just mate with the queen bee.
Yep, that's exactly it. So drones' only job is to mate with the queen. Good job. Who wants to go next? Let's have, did Eker go yet?
Mm-mm.
Okay, Eker, let's have you go.
I'll learn about the native plants.
About native plants, yeah. What's one reason that we like our native plants? What do they help?
They help with pollen, with native.
Yeah, they help with pollen, yep. Good job. And then is there one more person? Okay, so that last person, do you want to go? Is there one more person? Okay,
Madeline?
okay.
Madeline? She's on. Can you hear Madeline?
Yeah. I learned I
I didn't know you started planting
Sorry, there was a car going by. You said you didn't know what?
that you started like planting stuff in March. I thought, yeah,
Oh, you thought it was when?
like in the summer.
In the summer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's actually different for each plant. For a lot of wildflowers, they survive when there's a little frost outside, but some plants don't survive until the frost is gone, which is usually middle of May. So that's usually about the main time that you plant stuff is May. But every plant is a little different.
Mr. Fry, what did you learn?
That the drone, I've never heard of a drone bee.
You never heard of a drone bee?
No.
Yeah. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you all for listening today. I hope you all learned new things and are going to go out and make your seed bombs and plant your wildflowers and help the pollinators out. We need them. So have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Hey, everybody else that is on the call, before you guys end off, the next class is STEM for You, which is in the Google Classroom. Okay, so go into Google Classroom, do the assignment. Then I'll see you guys back at 11:45. Bring pen and paper with you guys. All right, bye. Bye, Collins.